The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Afternoon. I keep forgetting what time it is because I swear it seems like we just did this like an hour ago. I'm so glad to see every one of you nonetheless. I'm just blown away by how quickly time flies. Hello, Patrick. I ate the salmon and it was really good. Thank you very much. Mike Clay, good to see you. So good to see you. Mentioned you in today's newsletter. Went out to thousands of people. Really am enjoying the sellreportsfirst.com course. Hello, Dave Keys. Good to see you. I am here with Sue Bell and Jimmy Kelly for the Director's Cut Project Breakthrough Members Only webinar. And you can see we already have, this is the most exciting and scintillating spreadsheet of all time. Like, this spreadsheet is so awesome, it damn near turns me on. This is very, very exciting. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Occasionally, I'll go over here just because I need to shake off the spreadsheet. Just kidding. Okay, so here's what's going on today. It's going to be business as usual in terms of how we run this thing. And as you know, you can ask questions inside the question box. Hello, Jazz. Looks like Gina Wang is here. I can't repeat what she just said. That's okay. I'm used to that now. Jim, it's good to see you. Looks like there's still a flood of people rolling into the room. I have no idea exactly what's going to happen today. You never know what Jimmy or Sue are going to do, and that's the sheer joy of it. Okay, I will work very, very hard to make sure all of your questions get answered. Hopefully, you are all aware of where you can ask questions. I believe Sue has already moved them into the spreadsheet, so I'm not sure. But if you go to omg.software, www.omg.software, at the bottom of the list there's a right here. You can just click on that and you can submit your question. Okay, we have literally hundreds of questions that come in, so we do our best to get to them quickly as we can. If you don't get yours answered today, chances are you'll get it answered next week. Okay. Dave Keys says, I said persuasion architecture to a group today and they freaked out on that one. Yeah, I got that same result. I'm glad to hear that, Dave. Okay, so let's go back to, I guess we'll just, Sue and Jimmy, are you ready to just start in on these questions?
Sure thing.
Do you have any announcements or anything you'd like to say? Any strange and bizarre and unusual facts? Any rants? Any displeased or happy thoughts, or any memes you want to bust or propaganda you want to destroy, or just all around something interesting?
I've been having fun flying my drone.
You're flying a drone? Okay.
It's been a good time.
Which one did you get?
It's the 350 Qx3.
Oh yeah, Qx3.
Kind of fun.
Let me see if we can see that one.
350
Oh, yeah.
Qx3.
I got it right here.
It's kind of fun.
Okay. This one, QX.
Yeah,
QX.
that would be it.
Horizon Hobby. Okay. But are you ranked for it? That's the question.
Not trying to rank for it, but it is fun to fly around.
Yeah, that is really cool. Are you taking video footage?
Well, I thought it'd be cool, like when you go to live events and stuff, like, you know, get an overhead shot of everyone.
Totally. Yeah, there's the camera right on there. Very, very cool. All right. That's what Jimmy's been up to. Sue, what you been up to? Oh, never mind. We can't do that in a public. I'm just kidding with you. How's everything going in Austin, Sue? Are you moving into your new home, and how's everything going on?
Everything is wonderful.
Excellent. All right. So
and
we're
that's
going to.
all I can say.
Okay, good. That's all she can say. All right, well, I guess we'll just jump right in. Can you guys give me a 1 if you can hear us? I forgot to do a mic check. That's pretty typical of me. I remember once I did an entire gig. I was a lead musician in a rock band for a while. I did an entire gig, and like the first half of a song, and nobody could hear me, so let's not do that this time. Jay Ireland, can you guys hear me? Can you explain? Yeah, okay, cool. You can. Philip's always got to be a wise guy. Oh, wise guy. Hey, Mike, check. I'm here. Check that. Oh, gee, Mike. That level of joke is no longer allowed. That's just that's just too bad. You've fallen to new levels of dumb jokeness. Okay, Greg is there. Ryan Rodden's there. Okay, everybody can hear me. All right, and you heard the rest of the team. Just make if you heard Jimmy and Sue, give me one so I can make it clear. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. All right, good. Everybody can hear. We still have tons of people coming in, so probably people will come in here late. And I guess we'll start with Terry. Terry, are you here? Oh, by the way, just a quick thing before we start. Jimmy and I have decided that pulling you guys on live in many instances is far more effective and productive for both us and more importantly, you, because we get a remarkable number of questions from people that there's no way they can have a yes or no answer or a black or white answer. There's a lot of dependencies. In fact, I get about 700 of those per day. It would be wonderful if the universe was a place where there was just a right or wrong answer. SEO and traffic and even online marketing is not one of those places where it's just on or off. It's not like that usually. So we'll do our best. Sometimes it is, but we'd like to put you on live because then we can drill into the nuance of what it is that you're saying and get into the subtleties if there are any. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So if you have my point here is that if you have a microphone, turning the microphone on or having it plugged in, obviously, if you want to go live. Now, that being said, you do not have to go live and you don't have to speak out. If you're not a person who enjoys getting on mic or talking live, or you have something private, please let us know ahead of time if something is private to you or your business and you don't want it exposed. We're pretty good with not doing that automatically. Jimmy or Sue or myself can keep it on the screen on the side. But just keep that in mind that you've got to let us know. And if you drop a link inside the questions area, we can't guarantee that it won't get exposed, and you got to tell us and we'll be really careful, but we just want you to make sure. Okay, so that's pretty much the protocols, and we'll just go ahead and jump right in. Terry is asking a question. I have a few de-indexed PBNs, and I was wondering if there was anything I could do with them to make them useful. Do you have any recommendations? That's a great question, Terry. Sue, Jimmy, do you have a comment for that?
Well, that's a good question.
Jimmy, I just said that, man.
There are things you can do with them.
I just said that, man.
I don't know if we go into all that on this webinar, though.
Okay, well, let's look at the frame. Jimmy, on our scale of secrecy that we drew on the whiteboard that time, 1 through 5, what level of secrecy is a thing that I know that you do with these?
That would probably be a 5.
Yeah, that's a certification thing.
4 or 5, because it is something we cover at CERT. But
yeah, exactly.
So I didn't know if you want to talk about it on the webinar.
Probably not. We can put some breadcrumbs in there. We just have, you guys and gals all know that we have to be a bit diplomatic. It's a highly technical environment. This is not just, a Hollywood production here that we do on this. And, everything is an experiment. And so when we're talking about what we can and can't share, we don't want to put any of you guys at risk for anything that we teach. I've seen an amazing number of black hat methodologies over the last 24 months. I've become a bit of an aficionado. When I say black hat, I mean no hat, meaning all kinds of different things that you can do. I enjoy practicing them. I have mentors like Jimmy and Sue that teach me how to do these things. That being said, it is a really strange feeling to know that, if we say something just slightly wrong and you're not here in front of us to hang out with us and hang out with Jimmy and myself and Sue and Matt, the rest of the team physically, and because we pick up on nuances, that if we say something wrong, you could really harm yourself. So there are things that you can do with PBNs post hoc, meaning after the fact. Interestingly enough, I found out, Terry, I don't know if you hear on the call today, there was a couple of other people that mentioned the same thing in our director's cut Skype room, that they were looking for something to do with one of their networks failed and they just want to use it for something else. So my recommendation would be to consider the possibility of our advanced training. And this is a little bit, let me just put it this way, this topic is advanced. And hopefully, none of you guys have any illusions about that. Okay, I consider it advanced. I've been in the business for a decade. So that being, I would never proceed with some of these tactics and methods without literally having Jimmy or Sue look over my shoulder tell me what's going on. So that should give you a little idea how seriously I take these types of methods. So just keep that in mind, Terry. Consider our advanced certification stuff, and maybe consider if you really want to get into salvaging and doing so-called naughty things with them. I would recommend appearing, showing up live and just literally hanging out at the events that we bring up. So let's move on to your second question and see if we have any better luck with that. If I take PBNs to link them to my properties on my domain authority stacking cluster, is it okay to link to more than one property per PBN? For example, let's say I link to 3 properties in my domain authority stacking cluster from 1 PBN. Is it okay, even though these 3 properties are linked in a chain motion as per the DOS map in the director's cut? Question mark.
I would have to say I would discourage people from doing that from a PBN. Like, I don't mind doing it if it's like a social site or something and you link out to the other tier 1 DAS properties, because that's a little more, Google kind of expects some of that, but
okay.
I just don't recommend doing it with the PBNs per se.
Okay.
I mean, you can, but I would still do it, I wouldn't make it a habit.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could do maybe 1 or maybe 2, but don't do like all of them that way.
Okay, excellent. Dave Key says it depends. Actually, on this one, it pretty much doesn't. This is one of those answers where there's not a lot. When Jimmy says something like that, I would pretty much not do it. Sometimes he's not as forceful, because there are always exceptions. So he tries to allow for exceptions, but I would just say for you guys, that's the word. Okay, Terry, I know you're here, so and I know you wouldn't, Dave. I realize that you weren't saying that. That is not a dependency, really. Terry, hopefully that makes sense to you. And Terry says, yes, I'm here. Sounds good. I would. Okay, I appreciate. And I realize that everybody loves the risky stuff. I mean, it's just natural in our brains to want to find shortcuts, and there are a lot of them. But like anything else, I'll never forget when I was studying pyrotechnics with somebody, Sue, you probably at the academy, remember the couple of pyrotechnic guys when we were blowing stuff up in Wisconsin, when we had our office there.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember Marty, and remember all the fire, guys, Sue and I used to have these friends that we would really blow shit up, not metaphorically. And pardon my French, I slipped there, you guys, I'm really, really sorry about that. But that's really what it was, blowing stuff up. And the thing is that I remember how scared I was, because some of these pyrotechnics, these were the real things. These are the real fireworks. We have any pyrotechnics, real pyrotechnicians in the audience here? Give me a 1 if you've blown up real fireworks, like the kind you see on 4th of July. Give me a 1 if there's anybody. I'm kind of curious, anybody? Okay, not really anybody, so. But the thing is that I view a lot of the demolition and the use of these really crazy stacks and heavy-duty artillery for beginners as the same as when I was learning the pyrotechnic stuff. Because when it came to showtime and we were going to blow those things off, you can lose your hand in a second. You can catch the entire. Remember, Sue, we were worried about catching the entire field on fire, and then it was just this whole crazy thing. So really, there is a method to the madness. It looks easy. Those guys blowing off those fireworks, some of my friends, they make it look so easy. I mean, everything is cool at the end of the show, but it really, Jazz is saying, or the house. And what's interesting is we had a big building, a gathering building, pretty close to it, and the flames were getting pretty close. Dave Key says, I almost lost some fingers with an artillery simulator in the Army once. Yeah, exactly.
Ouch.
Yeah, so I'm just using this metaphor. I know it's a little bit silly, but I'm starting to get kind of serious about you guys knowing. The thing is Jimmy and Sue make it look easy, for real. And a lot of my friends who are working at the higher level of SEO make it look really, really easy. And it's just not. It's like that pyrotechnic. So just have the respect. I just don't want you to lose the respect for the number of years that it's taken Jimmy and Sue to deal with these types of things, and just not automatically assume that you're going to get, jump in and in 2 months, necessarily be doing those kinds of things. You got to earn that experience. It's not even that you're not worthy. It's just you have to actually have the experience of failing at least a couple times, or if not personally failing, at least really getting with somebody who's failed for you to make sure that you don't blow your fingers off. And I remember, I think it was Hector, Sue, I almost did something like critically bad. Like I almost launched one of the Mars, like one of the huge, gigantic like firestorm things, and I was really, really close to something else. And if it had gone off, I didn't know that it created a massive flame, and it would have caught this other pile of secondary fireworks off. And that would have been bad for everybody during the show. I'll never forget that. It was really just, I almost blew it. Okay, can you guys still see the screen here? Can you see the text on here? Okay, cool. Is this not too big? Is it too big, Jazz? You always speak your mind. Tell me, should I go smaller than that? Because I'm on a big screen TV. I'm like on a 70-inch screen TV, and I don't really know how bad it looks for you. Is that better? Jim Cruz says it looks good. Better to go big. Patrick, that was a pretty good salmon. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, that's all good. All right, cool. Let's.
Wait, you got your salmon and we did not?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the true story.
We live in the boonies.
Patrick, I'm going to defend you on this one. He did everything in his power up to this point. I mean, to try to get it to you guys, but it's food. And apparently, you guys live in I can't say it out loud. You guys live in the boonies, and so there is no 24-hour overnight service for refrigerated items. So, I mean, he worked pretty hard. He was like pinging me back on Skype. He was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And aside from flying it to you personally and driving it over to your house, which, I know you have fans that will do that, Sue. But, Patrick's not one of them, apparently. Are you, Patrick? Patrick, can't you hop on a plane? Oh, Patrick. Patrick is saying, I need an Austin address. I need an Austin address. Patrick's like, yep. He knows that would be a good idea. Yeah, he'd learn a thing.
I'll give you my address if you want it.
Jimmy, Jimmy would take you in the dungeon and show you where the real sausage is made. And the black hats. No, just kidding, Jimmy. I know you don't do that. All right, let's go over this. Nah. All right, so we'll move on from that. Actually, did I even? Oh, no. All of my questions relate to the Google dashboard. And Scott, Ken, are you here? Just so we know. I could have brought Terry on for that call, but I completely forgot, to be honest. I wanted to get a little momentum first. Ken M., are you here? Ken, do you have a microphone so we can talk to you out loud and maybe stimulate some conversation? Yes, all right, great. Ken, you are the rock star. Let me just go ahead and get you on there. Where is he? I'm still learning how to use my computer. Okay, here you go. I gotcha. There we go. Okay. Ken, you are live.
How do I sound? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. You sound really good. Where are you calling from, Ken?
In Ontario, Canada.
Oh, excellent. I love Ontario. I love Canada. Do you love Canada?
Some days.
All right, well, I'm going to stay away from that one. Andrew Powell says, yeah. Jazz says pretty up there. Oh, we got all kinds of comments. Yeah. Canada, eh?
A.
Oh, it's A, sorry. Okay, that's right. You can tell how much I've traveled to Canada. I've been to Edmonton, which was the only place I've actually been in Canada, and Ontario quickly. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and look at this question. Ken, I'm going to read it out loud, and you tell me if we understand the question. You're saying that all of your questions relate to the Google dashboard and our whole Skyfall update that we had a few months back, where yes. Jimmy and Sue read the patents, and Jimmy came up with a clear distinction about what this could mean and what it does mean. And you're saying in one of these original training videos, Sue mentions that she uses one browser, Firefox, for her personal work, then a different browser, Chrome, when dealing with client sites, cleansing cookies, temp files, etc. in between. So you're saying that when you begin a new project online, you think exit plan from the beginning, right? Okay, we get that, which is great. So if I want to sell a business unit, I'd like to be able to package the site, Facebook, Google+, YouTube channel, Twitter, etc. as a bundle. For instance, say I have an SEO agency, I'd like to keep that separate from a group of lead gen sites, for instance, or a separate affiliate empire, even if I have, say, an SEO agency in two niches, plumbing, chiropractors, etc. How do I keep my Google identities and social profiles separate? What if I don't want to adopt a separate persona, but keep them under my name? Or am I thinking about this all wrong? Okay. I'm trying to think at what level we should get into this on the call. This is also a certification event, very hot topic for several hours. Sue, comments?
Yeah, I will say I actually use Internet Explorer and not Chrome. I try to stay away from Chrome just because Google knows everything already. And in Internet Explorer, you can open a browser window. I forget what Internet Explorer calls it, but it's basically an incognito. That's what Mozilla calls it. It's the same kind of concept. An incognito browser, so that the cookies are contained within that that particular browser instance, right? So I flush all my cookies and everything anyway, and then I open an incognito browser window, and that keeps Google from asking me if I want to associate two different Google accounts. So it just brings up a whole new thing, and then I can enter the username and password, and everything stays clean that way. My own personal accounts I use for my own personal business, right? So everything that's associated with Sue Bell is associated with all of my companies, and so then it's easy enough for me to make accounts for my clients, and then I can pass those back to the client if they leave, or I can pass them to my outsourcer to use. Does that make sense?
So far.
Okay. So
Let me find out something
Let's
from.
say, Sue Bell. Sure.
Go ahead and finish your question. Actually, let me shift back to you.
Well, let's say Sue Bell develops, and I'm sure you do this, a whole affiliate network, for instance, a group of sites in a particular niche. And it's not your life's work, it's something you've done to make a few bucks, and after a couple of years or a year or whatever, you decide, you know what, it's time to sell this whole thing. And as you've been doing it, you've been doing all the DAS stuff and broadcasting your personal brand and all that stuff that I'm thinking you may have kept separate and may or may not have made a persona. How do you go about doing that, or do you worry about that?
Well,
yeah, I keep every project separate.
Yeah.
So if I were going to pass something on, I wouldn't pass on the DAS properties and everything. I'm just going to sell the core property and the social media accounts associated with the core property.
And could those social media properties, would you have left a Sue Bell name on it, or would you have used a persona in all instances?
I use, if it's not my own personal business, if it's an affiliate project, I use a persona.
And what if it was something where you have a little more expertise? For instance, I have an SEO agency, and like in this example, I developed something for plumbers, and I developed that whole niche, and I need my personal branding involved. And then, I also developed one for another niche, but you don't want to mix the two because you don't want to look like an expert in two areas necessarily. Say chiropractors in this instance. Would you set up two, say, separate Google accounts, G+, both with, Ken Mitchell or Sue Bell?
I wouldn't use the same name twice. Like that's against Google's terms of service. So I would probably find an expert that I could use as a front for that anyway, because I'm not an expert plumber. So if you're talking about it from an SEO perspective,
so you're a digital marketer. So you've developed a digital marketing expertise, and you offer that to plumbers. And then in a separate, you're a digital marketing expert again, but you offer your expertise to chiropractors. But you've set up two separate brands. You don't want to hang a shingle saying, hey, experts to plumbers and chiropractors, and whatever else you want. Right? You want to keep those separate so that you look like you have a particular expertise in a particular niche. So your expertise is in digital marketing, niched out.
Yeah, I think that I think what you're actually talking about is the way that you're personally trying to segment your offer, and the way that offer is going to specific segments of, so for instance, if you're an SEO or digital marketer and you specialize in chiropractics or chiropractors, right? And you have that industry, or you really focus on that particular type of clientele, you want to speak specifically to them. And I understand what you're saying, that there is some nuances of speaking to, say, chiropractors and or you've already got it in your mind. I think I know what you're thinking is you probably have a gigantic or at least a reasonably sized network of useful tools, subdomains, DAS stacks that would probably be useful to them as well. Am I getting that right? Or maybe citations?
Correct.
Okay. And what you're trying to do,
for instance, go ahead.
Well, you're just basically asking how do you want, to pivot your offer and provide that opportunity specifically to them, as opposed to maybe somebody who's a little bit different. Maybe it's plastic surgeons, or perhaps it's not even local. Perhaps it's international social media, but it's still in the same digital marketing.
What I'm saying is you take that a step further, that I've done that. You develop the whole network for 2 different niches. You developed everything for chiropractors, you've developed everything for plastic surgeons, kept them separate. And after a while you say, you know what, I don't want to continue doing one, I want to sell it.
So what you're really talking about is buying and selling a network. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, as a business unit, right? But you want to sell off all the social, to me anyway, I would think I'd want to sell off all the social media properties along with the site.
Okay.
That's.
I think really the question you're asking is one of business architecture, and I think that needs to be clarified before we get into how to segment your personas, because you're really talking about a business model here which is dubious at best. And so what I really want to, not bad by the way, but just unclear, not dubious and probably to you, but I don't understand what you're saying. As a result, you have to look at, you still have to start somewhere, and ground zero, the vortex in which all attentional energy in the market is sucked, is into your website. So you have to first start with the siloing and segmentation of your website. This is why we have certification level 1. In other words, the fact that I'm not clear on what you're trying to say is not a good sign. So
well, I started off saying that it was an exit plan, right? And
for whom?
Business units, for me.
Okay.
So I'm not, when I start off something, I don't want to get 3/4 of the way down the path, for instance, PBNs.
Right.
And then find out, oops, look at this, there's a Google patent here that says these PBNs.
No, I understand. I understand.
So I don't want to get 3/4 of the way down the path.
Of course, but I'm still saying that you have to have a business plan before you have an exit plan.
Okay, so what the business plan is.
Yeah, and it's not clear. And that's why I'm cautious, because our entire certification system is designed to absolutely make sure that you have a certification, that you have a business plan first. I'm sure you do, but without a diagram, if you want to send us over a diagram of what you're saying, Ken, because a digital marketing agency is pretty straightforward. You have one, there's an amazing book about this topic, Built to Sell. Take a look at it. You might have all of that in place, and now you're asking about the technical components, like when I sell this business, does the engine go with the car? Does the tire go with the car? Does the garage go with the car? And these are great questions, don't get me wrong.
But if I don't ask the question before I start, the possibility may not be there, is what I'm saying.
Yes, right. And it depends on it depends on what your product is. Like for instance, if the network is, if you're selling rankings and when the liquidity event happens, do all of the websites and Gmail accounts and everything go with it?
And I'm saying, okay.
Are you personally branding it? Is it, if it's you and you've personally branded it, then you've got to really consider that as well.
Okay.
I think what you want to do is clearly define in your mind what the thing is that you would sell. If you're, when you're concerned about an exit strategy like that, then how are you defining the network that you're going to sell in the end? And if you have that definition clear, then you're going to know what you need to do with those personas.
Okay. For instance, your company is not your network necessarily. This is what I'm really trying to get at, and I think Sue is implying the same. For example, when you talk about an exit strategy, there's a company out, there's a corporation or a corporate liquidation in which when you sell your company, you hand everything over, but there's variables in that. Does the website go with it? Do all the products and services go with it? How about the client list? Does that go with it? If you've segmented your client list and your sales funnels appropriately, they could have differing values. How are you going to assess the value of your business when you flip it or liquidate it? And then what is of value in the context that you're selling it? For instance, let's say you have an entire network set up, okay? This is why we actually segment, by the way, this is why Sue has the segmentation system, We're not really supposed to talk about it that much on these webinars, but there's the question that you've asked actually inspires a requirement to bring up Sue's web ring system. The reason it's done like this is precisely for the reason that you say. For example, our persona system, which we only speak about live, happens on the second layer, not on the first. So you've got to think about it. If you're selling your business, you can sell your network and not sell your business. So if you're selling your business and you've broken it down into separate segments, you really have got to ask yourself how much money and time it's going to cost you to build a separate system or network of DAS stacks from one type of digital marketing client, say chiropractors, to another, plastic surgeons. And if you're going to do that, then we use personas on the second layer of that network. And if there's enough money in it for you, of course you're going to go to the expense and do that, and you're going to want to keep those separately. But you can see that the question goes deeper into the network empire philosophy. You can see that, right, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, and it's really pretty deep. And in fact, it's deep enough that, Sue has spent 10 years building this concept and testing it. So that's one of the things I want to be sure that you guys understand. This is the elephant in the room, by the way. This is the elephant in the room. And since you asked the right question, I'm just being a little daring here and wanting to talk to you about it, that the answer to your question is really, how much does it cost you to build a network? What is in it for you? How are you going to sell that on your primary site? In other words, how are you going to segment it, right? If this is your digital marketing firm and you're addressing chiropractors in this offer, are you going to have separate offers? Are you going to have separate websites in their entirety? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when you make the offer, it's the heart of your business is still, the ground zero to your business is still where your offer is presented. At the end of the day, you either have an offer that's clear and a network to support it, or you've got confusing offers with multiple products that have their own websites that you're trying desperately to maintain. And you never really make any money that way unless you're clear. This is why we really do stop and make sure that everybody understands before they start creating personas, before they start building their network and getting wrapped around the axle and everything all tangled up. Where the tangling happens, the question you're asking is usually down here in WR2. This is why we separate each one of these layers with a completely different certification level, because if you don't, it is a little bit weird. You might end up selling your business and thinking, well, I was going to keep the engine, but the client says, okay, I'm not going to buy your business unless you give me the engine too. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure that you can. I 100% understand what you're saying, and it's a great question, Ken. It's a really, really great question. And let's go back into privacy because you're Go ahead, Sue.
Now, the other thing that I would say is you're making an assumption that I forget the two different businesses that you were talking about, but you're making the assumption that somebody is going to be looking for an SEO firm that specializes in their particular niche, and I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, that's definitely one approach. But another approach is to simply admit that you dominate markets. And the moment you've dominated this market and you've dominated this market, and you can offer them traffic in either one of those markets, and that you have more planned.
Yeah, the challenge.
So, it all just depends on how you want to position your company.
Yeah, the challenge that I have with all of this is that if you're like, what are you selling? And are you selling traffic? Are you selling rankings? Are you selling networks? How are you turning your products into objects? Are you selling reports first, like Mike and I are talking about in the Sell Reports First course? What is it? Are you doing all of the above? And in that event, if the value is the actual infrastructure, is the network itself, if you're going to sell a DAS stack, and whether you should or should not do that is actually an entirely different question. The way that Sue does is that all the data and all of the important factors that a client can take with them, she usually agrees with them up front. Okay, so you actually know what it is. Like our networks are $50,000, $100,000 when we build them. And as a result, generally speaking, when that's transported over to a client, they're going to take a significant amount. In other words, we'll give them everything that we can when that goes with them. Does that make sense? But my name, Russell Wright, is not going to be on, the stuff, right? You see what I'm saying, Ken? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, one of our gigantic networks was male enhancement, male herbs to increase your size for blah, 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 right? I'm not going to have my face on that when the networks look as much as I would like to. It's just not going to be there. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so you have to, again.
That's why you're always smiling in your picture.
Silence. Thialis. Okay, so Ken, I know that these are great questions, and just know that we have 7 full days where we barely scratch the surface on how to make sure that that happens right. Because when you're dealing with a $100,000 or $1 million liquidity event, and we've experienced these types of things, it is important to get deep. I would have to crack open your business, really look in there, and at the end of the day, you're going to be using personas at the deeper layers of that. Once you've clarified what you're selling and what your product actually is and what your offers are in relationship to your primary money site, the transaction site, okay? So that's probably as much as we could cover here today, but I hope that makes sense. You're also asking, when creating the 5 iframe punch for clients, should I have a separate Scoopit account for each client Storify? Again, this is back to your same question. Are these guys going to take it with them? Now, one thing I would like to offer you is maybe a different perspective, Ken. There is a way to position your business that might be more important than the liquidity event mindset for you, especially as a digital agency. It might be the ability to turn off the benefits that you give your client if they don't pay you. Okay, that's one that I think a lot of digital agencies need a little bit more work performing. Like I see a lot of digital agencies using ranking techniques that you can't really turn off. The client gets the benefits and they don't get paid, or they don't pay you. Now, I'm not saying that's your case. In that event,
you can turn it off for them.
Exactly, and Jimmy will teach you, everybody here, to make sure to turn everything off. And so what I'm really suggesting here, this might be a tangent, Ken, is that if you keep, one thing you can do is with Scoopit is so powerful in those methods that I taught, especially in certification level 2 and in the members area where everybody here has access if you're a Network Empire member to the 5 iframe punch. I would keep control of the Scoopit accounts until the client has paid you during that liquidity event and or during the selling of the network. And so to answer, that answers both questions, by the way, Ken. That just means have a separate Scoopit account for them.
Okay.
Because you can
yes, have a separate Scoopit account?
Well, you don't have to. I'm saying that look at what that does. It's a dependency, like a million other things we talk about. There's thousands of dependencies, unfortunately. But the dependency is if you have a separate Scoop account, and they're not very expensive really, and if it's themed towards chiropractors or whatever, then when you have control either way. You have the option either way. Either they pay you enough to hand over the keys to them, right? And you just take your credit card off the account, and the same with Storify and the rest. And if they don't pay you, then you keep it, and like Jimmy or Sue will just turn it off, and your rankings will plummet. Okay, it's really up to you, but the point is I want you guys to be in control of your destiny. And I just don't...
So to keep that control, you don't want to mix them up. You want a separate Scoopit account and a separate Storify account.
That's just me, yeah, that's me personally.
Okay, that's fair.
And Social Explosion, Sue and I spent, and I think, yeah, Jimmy was there too, and the rest of the development department had a wonderful meeting yesterday. It was a very big meeting. There's an agency version of Social Explosion coming I'm very excited about. It's a couple months down the road. But even now, I would maintain control. Here's how I handle clients' Social Explosion, okay? I install a completely different Social Explosion plugin for each client. I don't share the report with clients because it'll report all of the blog posts that are coming across multiple networks. So if you mix together 2 clients with one Social Explosion plugin on the current version, it'll mix the same sites. I don't like clients to log into sites like WordPress that I build them, but in some instances they do anyways, or they, for whatever reason, they have access. I don't want them seeing cross-pollination URLs, so I have completely unique Social Explosion tokenization for each unique client. Does that make sense, Ken?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you review number 2 there just above?
Sure. Oh, sorry. Sue talked about Lightbeam plugin in that video and what it tracks. Yes, we plugged in the Lightbeam. Is that only when logged into a Google account? No. You can use Lightbeam on Mozilla, and it will actually pull up. I'm sorry, Sue, did you want to answer that?
That's okay, you're doing fine.
Okay, you can plug into Mozilla. I think I have Lightbeam installed on Mozilla. Everybody familiar with Lightbeam? Okay. Paul says, so you've got multiple PayPal accounts to support different Social Explosion accounts. Yes, and yes, that's a short answer. So the Lightbeam, I don't have it installed right now. Lightbeam we talked about in the really amazing talk with Sue Bell and Jimmy on Google Skyfall. I'll go ahead and drop it in for you guys. So you've got the information on the Google Skyfall update, and then we actually, I believe that I put the download link inside the Google Skyfall update area on what's called the public update. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that in there. And just in case some of you guys are joining us a little bit later, or maybe you weren't around, and here's the Lightbeam link right here. And I also give you a demonstration, or Sue gives you a demonstration of the Lightbeam Mozilla plugin. It doesn't require that you're logged into Google. It's polling. Sue, how does Lightbeam, do you think, pull the spy sites? And is it just the click-aways and the packets, or how does that work?
No, it's actually looking, when the page loads, it actually looks at the things that it's communicating with.
Gotcha. Okay. This is really a useful thing to have. Now, there are different things out there that do the same thing, but what I do enjoy about it for anyone is just if you ever want your mind blown about how many data points are being collected whenever you surf anywhere on the web, one thing I will say is that you will feel a lot more like there's a lot more eyeballs on your websites and tracking your data. Okay, and there's a lot of pings and things that are happening whenever you go to one site.
You will feel violated.
Yes.
Yes, I wasn't going to say it quite like that, but that's what I leave Jimmy to tell you. You know, for me, I use it as a, yeah, no, it's what Jimmy said. Okay, so so Ken, let's just do. Ken, did you ask enough questions? That's my next question. Okay, that's good though. I love your questions. Okay, we've already done this, the 5 iframe punch. Now, you guys, I know that some of you don't necessarily. You might be thinking, I don't have enough money to create multiple, sites for clients or this and that. You don't have enough money not to. Okay, and that's the one thing I want to add to this question, and we already added. Like, you guys need to be getting paid very well for what it is that you do. So give me a 1 if you guys understand that. If you're even following half of what we're saying, you guys are worth a lot of money. I just really want to validate each and every one of your value on this call, because I actually talked to somebody who knows probably as much or if not more than I do, and he was charging like $30 an hour, like for his. I mean, I talked to one of you last week, and don't make me stop and get on this gigantic business coaching soapbox right now, because you'll be sorry, because I'll go on for a long, long time. All right. Okay, I just went into that on this week's Network Empire News newsletter, video newsletter. So seriously, you guys, you need to start looking at your value and really hanging around people that understand the value of all this, because if you know the stuff we're teaching, that you're learning from the team, you are worth immense amounts of value. And again, Mike Clay is saying, what? Mike, okay. Mike Clay teaches that in the cell reports first. Okay, and we'll get into more of that in that training system. Okay, so let's go into Ken is also saying, currently allow my browser to remember passwords. When we clear the cookies, should we clear the passwords? If yes, pain in the arse. Do you recommend the last? Yeah. See, well, our team is a little bit mixed on this. You can see what I got up here, Ken, in the right-hand corner. My more tech-savvy people, like Sue Bell, is not into using that. I've been using it for almost 6 years now and never had a breach that I know of. One thing I do not put in there, it's highly encrypted. I've actually studied a lot of the RoboForm encryption claims and this type of thing. I think people that are hyper paranoid, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you were to say how paranoid you are, type in your level of paranoia, 10 being the most paranoid. I'm talking to the group here. 10 being the most paranoid, to where it actually probably interferes with the streamline and flow of your business actions, and a 1 if you're not paranoid at all and you just practically just hand your passwords out on videos. Let me see how paranoid you get this group is. Paul said 12. Okay. Paul, I said 1 through 10. Okay, we have a mixed review in here. We have everything between 6. We have a couple of 2 or 3s. I have to tell you guys that if I didn't have RoboForm as my friend, if I decided one day not to trust it, again, I do not put my banking information in there. All right, I would probably lose about I don't know, 1 week per year in my time of logging in to the basic stuff. Okay, that's me personally. That being said, I think it's important that you hear from a different person. So I'm going to let Sue, who has not the same view that I do. Sue, why don't you chime in and tell me about your answer on this? Like, what advice would you give on that?
Well, I would say so long as you keep all of your money passwords, this is like your credit cards, your bank, your PayPal, anything that's got any way that somebody can access your money. So long as you don't have any of those in RoboForms, it's fine. So long as you just, you got your blog stuff in there and whatever, that's probably fine. But me personally, I keep everything in a text file, and it's easy. I open the text file, I do a search. It sits on my hard drive. I never upload it anywhere. It never goes anywhere. My computer's only shared with, on my local network. It's got a firewall, and I just sleep better at nights that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I understand. And I think there are different philosophies out there around this. I'm sure if we had Kevin Pauly on the call, he would be giving me a piece of his mind, which he does fairly regularly about security. I also, you guys, I would probably consider what it is that you do for a living. For instance, I'm logging in primarily to 1 or 2 or 3 sites to market, to get the message out, to beat the drum, to communicate, and everything that I do is backup, and there's backup to my backup. Okay, I don't do any banking online with RoboForm. I use it because I would probably just go insane going back and forth in the spreadsheet, because I log in anywhere between 30 and 60 times per day to various things. So just in the nature of what it is that I do. So again, just be careful. Yeah, one thing to point out is that, and I agree with Mike Clay, you don't have to go to the cloud with RoboForm, but extreme paranoid people are just not going to use it. I'm not trying to sell you on it, just being honest about what it is that I do and not asking you to copy me in any way. Okay, so back to Ken's question. Cookies, I really don't want to store cookies in my browser or in my Internet Explorer. I actually trust RoboForm more than that, but that's based on an article that I read. So again, I am not a security expert. Okay, you can use RoboForm to go if you don't like it. So how many of you use RoboForm? I just want to get an idea. Give me a 1 if you use RoboForm, or 2 if you're just way too paranoid, or 3 you just didn't even know about it. Gives me an idea. Okay, Andrew's using LastPass. Jazz is in Sue Bell's camp. She never would touch it. LastPass, okay. Dashline, never heard of that. Okay, Greg follows what Sue. I bet if what we would find in this demographic is those of you who've been around for a long time, hardcore geeks, deep infrastructure, high security people would never touch RoboForm. I understand that. Okay, so there we go. We have a bunch of different type of people. Okay, all right, cool. Does that get close enough? Did that really even answer your question, Ken, or did that completely walk around your question?
I think it said don't use your browser, and I think that pretty much answers number 5 as well.
Yeah, I trust that even less, but that's just me. It's probably misguided, but I'm not a security expert. But yeah, okay. Can we accomplish the same thing, keeping identity separate, by setting up different identities in Chrome? Chrome, gosh. Yeah. I might use Chrome if I'm logged into Google Drive, and I probably shouldn't even use it then, which I am right now in Google Drive. I'm just going to let Sue answer that. Chrome is getting worse, by the way.
Yeah, I think you already have. Don't bother, right?
It's so amazing.
The only reason I have Chrome installed is so that I can make sure that I'm completely browser compatible with my sites.
Yeah, that is the best idea ever. That is the best idea ever. And I'm sure you guys saw recently in the OMG, the big hubbub over the new Chrome thing. They just added there's another dubious exploit. Chrome, I think Stephen's here actually. There's a new thing that I read this article and it really pissed me off. So I'm not in a good mood with Chrome right now. I'll go ahead and toss that in there for you. I'm actually going to cover that. Now, actually, you know what? I'm not even going to pass you this link because I don't even trust this website. So I'll try to write a blog post and I'll give you guys something later. I want Sue to look at it first before I just run off my mouth. I'm not an expert in this area, but it did annoy me.
The other thing that I would say is guys who have Droid OS, you got to realize that that's Google too. I actually I've started using my phone more and more, and I actually had to step back and look at what I was doing because I'm like, shoot, that's as bad as using Chrome. That's maybe even worse. So
Dave Keys is saying that is a stupid. Okay, that makes sense, Sue. Dave Keys is saying that article is stupid. That's why I didn't pass it on to you. I haven't even really gotten deep into it. And so, Dave, I actually appreciate your opinion, so I'm not going to pass it on. But there is a couple of weird additions to Chrome when you go deep into the code, like when you go a little bit deep into privacy with somebody smarter than me. I'm actually kind of astounded by some of the data that Chrome is picking up. And you can also see it on the Lightbeam technology. I don't claim to be an expert in security, you guys. I have to call my team. I'm a marketer. I'm probably the least secure marketer and coach. I don't really, I got to tell you though, Chrome is really, even for me. Does that make sense, Ken? Are we good?
We're good. Thank you very much.
Can we accomplish the same thing? Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and we'll move on to the next question. Go ahead and see where there's Ken. Let's see if Andy has a good question. Andy, when building out a Silo website using the Silo plugin, can you have a post be assigned to a page, therefore sit under a page, but not appear within that Silo on the website, and instead appear on a separate blog post section? Gosh, Sue, did you catch on the first pass, or should I read it again?
I did not catch it, sorry.
That's okay. I'm trying to, let me just see if I can.
I'm building out a Silo website using the
Silo plugin. Mm-hmm. Your post
Can you have post be assigned to a page?
Therefore sit under a page, yes, but not appear,
yes.
Not Silo on the website, instead appear. No, you can't. No.
Correct, you cannot. That's
you would, Andy, you would have to use a. I love the idea, but actually, sort of, you would have to. The only way you could do that is no, you can't do that either. No.
Well,
why do you want to?
You could have a blog roll.
True.
You could. You could have a blog roll on a separate page. You can assign. Where your home page is a page, but then you assign another page that's going to be your blog roll page. Mm-hmm. And so then that would have all of your blog posts on your blog roll. You can do it that way, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the Silo structure.
Got it. Yeah, Andy is also saying that we completely answered this question already last week, and I have no memory whatsoever of answering that. You got to tell me before I start ranting, Andy. Okay. I don't remember answering that at all.
Because we got so many soapboxes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I have a few questions. Clearly you do. Let me see how many questions is a few. Oh my goodness. If I have 5, who is this again? This is actually too big for me to see. Justin, are you here? Justin Leon, are you here? Okay, that's okay, we'll answer them anyway. If I have 5 PBNs on the same GoDaddy account, 5 on the same Enom account, does Google see all my PBNs under my account if I use different whois information under every PBN? Recently, I watched Cotton's webinar with Greg, and he told about network solutions showing customer IDs, yes. So that's a huge footprint. What about other registrars? Jimmy, Sue? Okay, Alex seems to have lost.
What are we looking at?
This is a question about the thing about Cotton and Greg Morrison talking about the network solutions exploit of data breach of your, registrar information. Are there any other hosting companies that you know of that are a problem? This guy is asking specifically about GoDaddy's and Enom.
I know there's a lot of them out there. It's a matter of like where you're pointing the domains once you have them up and hosted, really. I think some people get into situations where they want to keep using the same hosting because they get accustomed to using it or working with the interface or however it is. So
indeed,
just a matter is if you have one money site, just start setting it up on different hosting.
Mm-hmm.
This issue was actually with the registrar and not with the hosting, where even if you buy the privacy through the registrar when you buy the domain, they're still showing the customer ID.
Yeah.
So
It
it
leaves a
tracks
footprint.
to a footprint.
Yeah.
And I actually heard that. I actually was on the webinar when Greg was talking about it.
Yeah.
And he said he was unsure whether or not any other registrars do that. And I honestly don't know either.
I don't either. And that's actually a great question, Justin. We haven't heard anything. When Greg, I do know that Greg Morrison, I'm not sure if Jimmy were you talking to Greg when you guys discovered that together? Or I think you might have been with him or gave him that information or something. I don't know. But that was the main exploit. I don't remember him. We talked to him on Skype about it. I don't remember him talking about other registrars. But again, it's a good thing to keep an eye out for, just like any footprint like that or anything else, or the Google Analytics UA code is the same type of thing. So it's a great question, but we don't know of anybody else that's doing that. It seems like Network Solutions is being extra dumb about that. Okay, let's move on to number 2.
I've never cared for Network Solutions anyway.
Okay, there's an opinion for you guys about Sue Bell, from Sue Bell, that she just...
The reason I don't like it, the reason I don't like them is because if you query a domain, they'll put a hold on it,
Yeah.
and you can't go buy it somewhere else.
Yes.
And so, like, their business practices, in my humble opinion, just are
shady.
Yeah. It all seems
shady.
pretty...
Those are great words, shady.
Yeah. It all seems pretty suspicious, actually, like self-serving. Number 2 is I bought around 20 domains, EMDs, non-EMDs, partial EMDs, and a few aged all domains, and they'll all be affiliate site. First of all, I want to create social properties, then do DAS and PBNs, but I have a question about Facebook. I was doing DAS, I saw that Facebook asked for phone number verification after 1 week or 2 weeks of accounts being live. So in order to create 20 pages, I would need 20 phone numbers. My question is, could I create one Facebook account and under the Facebook account create all 20 pages for my site without a footprint, or Google sees those Facebook pages are under one account? If I create under one Facebook accounts all 20 pages, should I hide my IP or something similar creating that? Okay, you've asked about 14 questions in one, and that's okay. All I have to say is that this is an area that I know a little bit more than average about. As far as I know, and Jimmy and Sue might know more than me, and I've created, literally hundreds of Facebook pages, but things are getting really bad, as you guys are probably aware over there. The war for your personal identity is going to start really escalating over the next 5 years. And this year is a pivotal point where your fingerprint and your DNA and your eyeball scan, and I actually, all kidding aside, I do believe that some social networks, once they gain the attention of a billion plus, will be able to, request that you do an eye scan or these types of things probably in the next 10 years. So what's happening is that Facebook has just clamped down, and they're really trying to get rid of the fake accounts because there are, millions upon millions of those. And the thing is that as far as I know, at least right now, there is no way for Google and Facebook don't have a super tight relationship, at least right now. They're still, fighting for attention. As far as I know, and you guys, maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, Google cannot connect a biz page, which is a separate identity in Facebook, to your personal social account. There's a lot of different reasons for this. When you create a Facebook page, you can actually invite a lot of different admins. You can actually assign complete control or God level control from one of your Facebook page creations to another admin. So for instance, under my personal Facebook account, I could create an admin page called Jimmy Kelly if I wanted to, which I did. And he didn't like that much, but I did it anyways. But then I could hand over, Jimmy could say, okay, well, that's my page, what are you doing? And then I could pass the full admin power over to that page, and he could do whatever he wanted. He could delete it, he could own it, okay? So that's not something that Google knows about. In terms of ranking, as far as I know, I have looked many, many times. There's no footprint connecting the owner that is the personal identity of that account back to you. Now, that being said, what you want to be careful of is if you're going to do shady things on Facebook, which of course I know none of you would ever do, i.e. creating multiple Facebook pages. Remember, you can create a Facebook page that is a celebrity or an identity or a person, like I did, for example, when I was trying to help maintain the Jimmy Kelly fan page, okay, before I passed it back to him. Okay, you have people that are in celebrity status, you have these types of things. If you're going to do that, be really careful what you do. If you violate the terms of service, if you pretend that your page is, if you click officially, this is an official fan page of, when Facebook asks you point blank, are you an official representation of Jimmy Kelly? Okay. If you say yes, and it's a big organization, it's Oprah Winfrey or something like that, and they come back and see that they've done that, people are successfully getting those Facebook pages removed, and you run the risk of getting your account banned if you haven't reassigned those Facebook pages. Say you have 50 or 70 Facebook pages assigned to one personal profile. If you do something really naughty, of course none of you will ever do this, if you really did that, you could lose your entire account or have it suspended for review. I would recommend avoiding that, okay? So you probably want to, if you're using your personal Facebook page, then you probably want to make sure that you're not being overly naughty with those pages or talking about subject matter or doing dishonest things, okay? All right, the second thing is you can actually have another Facebook identity and assign multiple pages to that. That's probably the safest bet, Justin, is that if you've got another Facebook identity and you can create, that identity can just be used to create the affiliate. So you can assign, let's say you've got a Facebook Justin Leon 2 or some other type of identity, okay? And you create multiple Facebook pages, and then you assign those pages. You could do all of your affiliate sites tied to that one topic or theme for that one Facebook identity. That's one possible way that you could do it. And that way you only have to have one phone number. It's still not your personal account. You don't run the risk of getting your personal family and friends account blown away, okay, because of weird stuff that you've done. Does that make sense? Give me a 1, everybody, if you understand what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Yeah, Heidi's asking about Google Plus in this regard. It's slightly different, but there's a similar model that you can use. So that's just the main thing. Hopefully that makes sense, Justin. That's what other than that, I'm not really going to get into all this because, again, you're talking pretty deep stuff. We talk about certification, but hopefully I've given you enough to know that Facebook is an anomaly. They're getting pretty big for their britches. Okay. As soon as they get the little 3D helmets coming out, you know, we're all just going to be sitting around together in a virtual room talking. You know, they're super accelerated right now, so just so you know where they're going. Third question is, does Google see...
I have a beta one of those.
Good for you. I'm sure you do. Does Google see when I'm logging into my money site and PBNs and posting posts and PBNs, which links back to my money site that I log in? If yes, how to hide that? Okay, we already covered that in the recent security discussion. Okay, I wasn't trying to blow you off, so I just want to finish that up. What were you? Is there anything else you wanted to say about the new virtual helmets?
No.
Okay, sorry. Okay, cool. Okay. All right, let's take a question from the audience and hopefully somebody who's there. The next question I answer will be somebody who's willing to get on the mic. Okay, somebody who can actually talk to us live so you don't have to hear the sound of my droning voice putting you to sleep. Dave, let's see, Michael W. Michael, are you around? Can you talk? This is a really long question and it's pretty technical. Michael, I like your question. It'll keep Jimmy on his toes. You're at work, okay. I don't know, I'm gonna have to go back. I'll go ahead and, actually, Michael, you should copy and paste that question into the www.omg form, which will drop at the end of this, because it's a really, really long question. Dave is, of course, wanting the mic. Dave is the karaoke king of SEO. Just messing with you, man. Let's go ahead and, Dave, I'm going to go ahead and open up the mic and you can entertain us. Can you hear us? Dave? Dave, please.
There he is.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I was just getting up the Barry Manilow's lyrics.
Uh-oh. Barry Manilow, you just dated yourself.
Yeah, I know.
That's all right. We still love you. So,
Yeah,
what do you want to talk? What
hey,
kind
I got two questions that you probably saw in the thread here in the panel. So I'll let you pick which one you think you'd like to talk about. Can you remember the questions? One was about powering up a DAS stack, and the other one is about one-word search results with locality. What triggers locality in one-word search?
I'm trying to find the actual question. How far back did you ask it?
I don't know because I can't see the rest of the thread.
That's true. Let me see. Why don't you go ahead and just ask it as best you can here, and I think the team is listening, so.
Okay, well.
I suspect they're listening.
I'll go to the first one, I guess.
Okay.
Can we talk about the powering up aspect of DAS?
Okay.
The need or not for efficiency or efficiency of PBNs, and what kind of PBN to power up a DAS stack.
Let me, that's going to be a Jimmy question or a Sue question, so let me make sure that Jimmy's around.
Let's see if we want to do that or if we should put that off and talk about the other one.
Okay, well, you obviously want that one to be discussed.
I'm around.
Yeah, I like that one.
Jimmy, is that a question that you're interested in answering today?
Yeah, we can answer that question.
I have a website we can look at.
Okay.
Where I've used only DAS.
Jimmy, do you want to take over the screen for this one? This is like way not what I'm going to be able to diagram or anything.
Yeah, let me move some stuff here.
Turn off the porn, yeah. and the SAPE links and all the other things. I'm just messing with you. He doesn't really use SAPE links.
Are they still around?
I don't know. I don't speak Russian.
What do you think SAPE? Wait.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, what's your URL?
Jeff Properties. And this is one that I built with the any silo builder, manual silo builder. So it's jeffproperties.com.
Let me close out a few things here. I forgot I still have some of this stuff up.
Uh-oh.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I'll just say that this site ranks, like in the 20s and 30s for a lot of its keywords.
Okay.
Right now. Somewhere between, it's got a couple page one, mostly it's positions in the 20s and 30s.
Okay, sorry, say the website again?
It's jeffproperties.com.
Dave, I'm going to make you an organizer so you can see the back questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's got one silo, which is West Palm Beach condos for sale, and under that we have the subtopics, which are on the right with the any plugin for that widget plugin. So
Okay. I
have done a couple of 2 or 3 DAS clusters to this, and it has moved up, but now it's just kind of churning. It's where it is, and so I'm thinking, well, I could start plugging in PBNs to power things up, or I could create some more clusters or let it age a little bit. It's about 4 months old.
One thing you can do, you can always weave in PBNs into your clusters if you want, if you have some good ones like that you can supplement in there. And sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll use PBNs. Like typically when I'm hitting a specific stack, like I'll start doing traffic, social signals, a few more 2.0s, and you can even use like PBNs or something that's got some strength to it. And it usually just gives it good variety. It shows that it's got traffic going to those backlinks, and that's usually what will start juicing that stuff up.
Yeah. That could be the weakness there. There's not a lot of traffic happening here unless there's, people digging in that far in search. There's not a lot of traffic here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what kind of links that you sent into there. I'd have to look at your properties that you used specifically, but
I use a lot of YouTube, Weebly, Storify, Scoop it, those kind.
What kind of anchors did you use for it?
A lot of URL anchors. I tended to stay away from trying to power up a lot of keywords right now and just kind of give it a good solid base.
Kind of interesting. I don't see most of these I'm not seeing anything come up with.
Oh yeah, there's some empty content. I guess that can hurt me, can't it?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
see here. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because there's no, I don't see any on most of these. Let's just look through the silo a little bit. Oh, that one's good. So like it looks like it's just on like your top 5. I'm not seeing anything pull in. Whitney, Trump.
Yeah, I've been given a lot of focus on the City Plaza condos. That's something of great interest to my client on his other website. So this has been kind of like an experiment to see what it takes to rank starting over. Because he's got that site that you know that he should really tear it down, and he's not going to.
So yeah, you basically just want to. I mean, your anchors and stuff that you'll be using will be more of your broad match type phrases going into your silos, because that's going to prevent, you know, any of the descriptor filters from hitting. Like I almost wonder, let me see, like your on-site structuring could be possibly different. Let me see if you do West Palm North. So like you could do something like in your silo, like just change the wording on the silo as opposed to what you have here. Your silo structure is correct in the way that you did it, but for your site-wide link, you want to get something that's more of a little beefier. So you'd probably want to do like Rapallo North condos or something like that.
Going for something more semantic or?
Yeah, just because like right now you have all this internal link juice going around, but it's very specific to the area as opposed to the keyword that you're trying to go for, which would be probably condos for sale or beach condos for sale in the location. So
maybe that would explain why on a lot of these the page that ranks is not these pages but the West Palm Beach condos for sale page.
Yes, that's just what I'm thinking. So you could just, and you don't have to change remember your URL structure is fine, and you have everything you need in your title. What I would really just do is just change up your internal linking. So you want to just make these be, you know, Rapallo North condos.
Okay.
Like I would weave the condos or condominiums or something into these, because it's going to be okay sending it to these, and then you're also going to do probably broad match when you're going into this one. So I mean, you could probably get away with the link structure being Rapallo North condos for sale, you know, Rapallo South. Because which one did you say is ranking well? The West Palm Beach condos?
Actually, the one you have highlighted, yeah, that one tends to rank for a lot of, it doesn't rank that high, but that's the page that ranks. The one you have highlighted, I think, is one of the ones that's on page 1.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, you can see it right there.
Yeah.
It's doing just fine. So like, and I'm not sure if you sent links to this or not yet. So, yeah, if you do broad match, because mostly what you're trying to do is rank for the lower ones, like that'll give you all your relevancy through your site. You might not even need to do any more links. I would just structure your internal linking better in that instance. So like,
Make it a little more relevant on the ones that are just 2 words, you mean?
yeah, well, I mean, even some of these, like these ones are good right here, right? Because they have the condo sales West Palm Beach. And so, you know, because you have this on your site-wide, you'd want to hit it with your broad match because that's very specific. But if you want to do more long-tail type anchors, then you would make this more broad match. But I'm not sure what you already built on your DAS properties as far as anchors go. So I'd just keep that in mind when you build it out. So, but yeah, you just want to make sure that you're getting the condo and sales included in there in your site-wides, and it'll probably pull it up. So like you might even have, let's just check one of these other ones, see how it's doing, like Lofts West. That one's probably doing okay too, is my guess. Yeah, I don't see anything there. Oh, there you are. You're at bottom of page 2 for it. So, yeah, I think just go in there and change up your site-wide anchor text to just be more broad match with the main location.
Okay.
Because you could just do Rapallo North condo sales, or condos for sale, or condominiums for sale, or something like that. That should pull all of them up from what you've already done. So overall, I think it looks pretty good, other than the missing content.
So that'll probably help too, huh?
Yes. Yeah, that would help those pages rank as well. But yeah, so does that help with your question? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so, because maybe the whole premise of my question is I was focused on, you know, how much more power and links do I need, but really the answer seems to lie more in how much more accurate do I make this website in terms of the silos and what's being identified to the search engine, what it's about.
Yeah, and you know, that's the other thing. It's like sometimes you might run into something that's a little more competitive. Like
this is pretty competitive. I mean, this market, anyhow, is competitive.
Like, let's see. I don't remember what that one was that we checked. I think it was the Esperante. So if you put like this one in here, like you don't even have to build out like you could build another supporting article for this keyword and just put it right underneath this one, and that would probably give you movement on this.
Yeah.
So, and then you could just turn traffic on and it'll probably pull it up to number 1. Well, you might have a hard time. It looks like somebody's sitting up here with their Google Places and everything locked in. You might have to do a Places page just to compete for that number 1 spot.
Yeah.
But even just doing the siloing and adjusting your anchor text on site, that should pull it up to number 2. Because a lot of the times, once I build the power and thing, like metric-wise, what I need on the off-site, then I just look at the on-site and see what I can adjust and change to manipulate the internal link juice properties more. Because sometimes, you know, just like how you prefer using a keyword from an off-site standpoint, same thing would go interior as well. Like it's preferred, but then you always have to think of the combinations and do those keywords actually have traffic. So like we couldn't do like all descriptor text, anchor text, if that doesn't have enough search volume to back it up, kind of thing. So, and then it also depends on, did I do too many descriptor anchors for my backlink properties? Because then that means I need to change my silo structure to be more broad.
Right.
So it's just kind of that flip-flop combination when people do it. So
yeah, I probably avoided it too much, you know, both on my anchors and on site. Like I was really holding back on how much I wanted to go for.
Yeah, I think overall, like keeping the anchors that you're doing offsite is a good sign because most of these are still responding well.
Yeah.
So like really what I do is I just focus on utilizing your internal link juice at this point. You know, like if you have a page that you need to move up a couple of spots, like go build a supporting article for it and link over to this page for it.
A blog article or a page?
Yeah, just any.
Or do
It
you
could
mean
be a
off-site?
blog. It could be a blog or a page on this site specifically.
Yeah.
And just link to this page internally using the probably descriptor with broad match is what I would use in this instance.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You get what you
Very
need?
cool. That was a whole lot in just a few minutes there.
Yeah, yeah. And that really is the essence of a lot of things there. It's just that
Yeah, it does.
on page, off page, there are dependencies. This is where we get questions like, yes or no questions are kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, and this is way better than a yes or no question.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was too quiet, I apologize, but I was just
Oh
listening
no,
to
that's
everything
no,
Jimmy
no.
just shared
That's why we want to take things live, because every case we look at is different, and that's. I don't envy Jimmy trying to teach people this stuff, that level.
Well, this
So
was
it's just
awesome.
a matter of it's just a matter of putting your mindset into it, and then you just think of like the combination factor going on. Like that's why I try to explain to people like your anchor text percentage is like a collection in a bucket, like it's all water in a bucket.
Yeah.
So that applies to both any offsite anchors you build and also your onsite anchors. So, and then you just got to be aware of the filters. Like if I spend all my time doing long tails on my offsite anchors, then I need to start doing more broad match for my internal structuring. Because that way it encompasses everything without going over limits. But if I went in there and started doing the long tail on-site as well as the off-site, then Google knows that that's the keyword you're trying to go for, and they just throw you into a filter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Keys. Okay.
Jimmy Kelly.
Well, we're highlighting you. Jimmy is already the rock star. We know that.
I should sing the song, but we'll leave that for Michael Long to do next time.
No, we don't allow Barry Manilow live on our webinars. I'm sorry. Just messing with you, man. Okay. So, no, there's nothing wrong with Barry Manilow.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know, man.
Well, there is, but I'm trying to be diplomatic. Okay.
So yeah, do those changes and then report back next week. Like as soon as you make the changes, go resubmit your sitemap to Google.
All right.
And then you'll probably see changes happen a lot faster.
I'll keep you guys posted on this.
Yeah,
Definitely
it sounds good. Be good to see an update for it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. That was excellent. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. This helps me. I mean, I'm thinking of a dozen websites where, that's where I should apply this.
Okay, cool. Actually, you're on as an organizer. I'm not. I guess Sue wanted to make sure that
myself.
That's all right. I'll mute you. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and look. We've been on for an hour and a half. We're trying to keep things under 2 hours. I think we can go for a couple more questions if we have any. Let me make sure what we have going on. There was a real challenging question. I don't know how your brain is, Jimmy, but this one was a real doozy.
My brain's doing good today.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. All right, let me just find this big question that Mike asked. Okay. And Susie, I see yours as well. And these are probably the last two that we're going to do today. Let's go with Michael W. All right. I used the information that was covered when reviewing Octavio's site a few webbies ago, and my site jumped from page 4 to page 2. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that, Michael, and thanks, Jimmy, for helping him out as well. A lot of people, I'm sure. I have not done very much link building to the website at this point, but how can I tell if it is still over-optimized? Michael, can I mention the keywords? Yeah, actually, you would not have expected me to not. Can I mention the keywords? I never know what to do. Can I mention the keywords, Jimmy? Mike, are you still here? I know you're at work. Can we mention the keywords? Otherwise, it's going to be hard. I'm going to skip this whole question. I just realized that you just laid out your entire. Sorry, guys. I better not. This 6.2. Michael just laid out his entire thing. Never mind. Never mind. Let me try Susie's. Until I get Mike's permission, I can't go deeper into that. On a similar, Susie Black says, on a similar subject to Justin's question, I have a question for Jimmy. I have a money site with 5 PBN sites pointing to it. I ran Link Research Detox tool on it, and it picked out all 5 of my PBN sites as being potential link network with a suspension 22 error. That's the SUSP22, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
I have different hosting for all 3 sites. 3 have privacy. 2 are different fake names. All are WordPress sites, but with different themes. The only commonality I could think of is that all the domains are registered on GoDaddy because I got them at auction. Is this enough to get the suspicious flag, or am I missing something critical? It worries me that if Link Research Tool thinks it's a network, then Google may think the same. Jimmy, comments for
That
Susie?
is correct. That is why I use that tool.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you have a third party coming in and analyzing all these different data points from the links, and it can pick up a link network, then you know Google can.
Yeah, so Susie, your fears are justified. Be afraid. That's what he's saying.
Now, it doesn't mean it's like the end of the world. You know, I would go in there and just start building. If your site rankings haven't been affected and there's nothing bad going on, like I would just start building other type links. Like that might be an instance where DAS might come into play because, you know, you can either go in and start doing more PBNs, but if it sounds like there's still some kind of footprint going on that you have, and so if you're not comfortable with trying to break that footprint as you build more PBNs, then I would suggest just going and doing some DAS to start getting some more link diversity in there, and that would certainly help. So, and it's hard to say, you know, when you look into Kemper, when you're looking at their tools, like they'll usually give you a list of stuff, like let me bring one up, for instance. I'll show you what you can look at.
And, you know, the bottom line there, Susie, is you heard Jimmy just said is that you're right to think that if it's being picked up by a third-party tool that's got no vested interest, that there's definitely something going on. That's why he uses those. And we get a lot into that in the traffichospital.com course as well. It's a justified concern, and that's why you got to have a decent set of tools and insights into the way that things are, the patterns that are set up on your backlinks.
Because you'd be surprised. I mean, there's like, you know, I've gotten people message me before that they've had like, you know, over 2,000 PBNs been taken down overnight.
Yeah.
Like all their rankings are gone, and it's not, it's definitely not a pretty picture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth really understanding how these types of things work. And the last thing that our team wants any of you guys to experience is investing tons of money and time and IT debt and ranking debt and keyword research into something that's unnecessarily badly put together. You know, and I've actually, again, I think I've said this on previous webinars, and I hope you guys take it to heart. Hopefully it puts it in some kind of perspective. Unless I was trained or mentored by somebody that really shows me how to do it, and I know that most of you have been. I hope you have taken all the courses in OMG. I hope you've taken our courses on this. I don't even buy a site at auction without running it by my team, my top-notch team. Like it would never even occur to me to buy an expired domain without kicking it over to Jimmy or Sue, other teammates who really know what they're doing. You know, to really look at the quality of it before I ever purchased it. I just want you guys to know that if I've been in the biz for 10 years and I still have oversight, I would hope that just in you guys, remember you're running a business, right? That you have you're aware of the possible points of failure before you invest huge amounts of money. It's a really serious thing, like all kidding aside. It really is. I don't want any one of you to ever invest money in something that you're hoping is gold and then only to find later on, maybe even after purchasing it or after cleaning it up or who knows, after they transfer the ownership, that it's just crap. I just don't want you guys to experience that.
See, like here's an example, you know, like when you go into your filters, I don't want to go too high because I don't want to expose this person's website, but this would be an example of you can go and look at the data points that are generated from, just doing a normal scan to see if it is toxic. So right off the bat, I can see, like, this is a set of 25 of their links, right? So you have the top 5 that are no index, so that's kind of suspicious, and then look at the rest of the page. They all have a 30 plus title rank, so
Jeez.
that could be the fact that they are not it's either not a unique title for them to rank, but it's not common to see, like, almost your first page of links, they're either no indexed or they have a panda penalty. Like, that's my panda penalty that I check right there. Like, sometimes it's panda penalty, or sometimes they just didn't do a good enough job writing unique title. But, like, when you look at these, I mean, they're mostly the same.
Gotcha.
They're all different things. And when you come over here, you can see the IP footprints. I mean, there's not much difference going on in some of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Suspicious 22 specifically it would be the links that are pointing to your PBN. And so what Kemper's tools did is they identified other sites that link to all 5 PBNs that have the same backlinking footprint. And so that's another thing you got to be careful of, because Google's looking all the way back out to tier 3, and this is something that's kind of a blind spot when you're trying to go and buy PBNs, because you're not able to go and like, most people don't go check, say, oh, let's go look at the common backlinks between all these that we bought, because a lot of people want to sell PBNs, they know how to power them up, they can get that PR built up, and so when you buy them, yeah, the PR powering them is legit. They've put the links to them, but they might have done all 5 of those to try and just get money coming into their bank. And
Right.
You wouldn't think about that when you're going out. You're like, these links look pretty good to the domain, and these are pretty good metrics, and this is a fair price, and you just go and buy it. But then as you go through the buying process, there's people out there just, that's what they do for a living. So you just got to go and make sure that they don't do, they're not building a link footprint on every single domain that you're doing, because then once you take those 5 PBNs and point them to your site, like, at first it's not going to be too bad, but let's just say you kept building it out and happen to get PBNs from the same person that's building them, then at some point that's just going to be like a glowing beacon of spam, because it all points to your site, and
Mm-hmm.
all the PBNs have the same backlinks pointing to the PBNs, and so they can just identify, hey, link network, let's shoot them down.
Yeah.
So it's just something to be aware of. I mean, this is just like one page of links. I mean, you can tell that in this instance it's not the most pretty of domains that have linked to this specific domain. So
Exactly. And those of you who, we always get this question a lot after Jimmy reveals this application. I've dropped the link. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. Just we have so many people ask what this tool is. It's not a cheap set of tools, although affordable prices. Jimmy goes into this way, way, way deep into this in the traffichospital.com course. Just be advised, this is one of the many, many tools that he uses. And definitely have a business plan, and when you can offer services like this as well, Susie, of course, cleaning up your own stuff. This is really a popular service as well, something for you guys to consider. Okay, cool. So that's.
And then there's another one thing that they might want to look at is the common backlinks tool.
Okay.
So this is something that you could run. Let's say you had a group of domains that you were wanting to buy. Like, you can always run this tool on it. And what you do is you just paste in your list of URLs. I think you can go up to 10. Last time I tried it.
How many of you guys use this set of tools? What Jimmy's talking about now is before you even buy the darn things, the auction sites. How many of you guys, give me a 1 if you use this tool as one of the analysis processes, or 2 if you never have. You just buy the domain at auction because it looks good and you're hoping it's good, or you're one of those.
So this is something you could do. You could just paste in, let's say it would go up to 12. So let's just say I found a list of 12 PBNs that interest me. I could put all those domains in there and I can have it go find all the common backlinks to each of those 12 domains. So, if you come up with a big list of different stuff, then obviously there's going to be commonalities like YouTube or social properties, stuff like that you don't have to worry about. But what you're looking for is like, like other PBNs pointing to those sites or some other means that they use to power it up. So those are kind of links you want to look at. And if you see that kind of pattern, it doesn't mean that you couldn't buy at least one of them.
Right.
But then you might not end up buying all 12 like you're doing because they might be from the same vendor, the same sellers putting up all these domains or something like that.
Right, so. Gotcha. Jimmy, in your early SEO career, what's the most you've ever lost on a domain? Or, because I know you had early on, you probably made a mistake or two, didn't you? Or did you never make a mistake?
No, I've made tons of mistakes.
But what would you say was the biggest domain mistake, auction purchase mistake you've ever made early on in your career? Like not recently, but early on.
Well, it was like I'd say it was like $2,000 when we invested in it. And, that's back in the day when, we're trying to build up these huge, massive networks.
Yeah, it was a huge project for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is like pre-Penguin 1, I would say.
Okay, right.
And when Penguin 1 came out, that's really when I wanted to start looking at, that's when I started posing the question, what if Google chose to like get rid of links altogether?
Yeah, right.
devalue links, and that's
right.
what's down the path, DAP, these kinds of things. But
right.
Because I just thought there's got to be a different way. There's like certainly think about how many data points that there are to even rank a site. Like there's probably an SEO person sitting out there that's going to discover something that's going to rank your site in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it's just something that nobody's ever tested or tried or looked at before because they don't think of outside the box. I think we get in a habit of going out and reading other people's SEO blogs or the Moz community or whatever, and we think that that's gospel, and that's just not. You can't take, for many years, I tell people, for many years I sat there and read all these blogs and I believed everything they told me and it was gospel to me at the time.
Right.
And over time, I would do stuff or do a test and it wouldn't work. And I'd do it again, it wouldn't work again. So then it's like, well, so that can't be a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So slowly over the course of these years, I've just stopped listening to a lot of the mainstream SEO blogs because unless they're doing testing in conjunction with what they're reporting on, most of the time they've either regurgitated it from somewhere else or picked it up from a Google employee or whatever, which, they're not going to lead you down a path that's going to give you success. They're going to lead you down a path that's going to let you go right into their trap.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
that's my personal.
No, this is great stuff, Jimmy. Great stuff. Because I think it's helpful for people to hear, from a master SEO, like what is, that you didn't always have this amount of insight and knowledge. That's just one thing I've noticed is, that, it's good for people to know that if they want to, if they put their mind on it, that they can be doing the things that you're doing, with effort and focus over time with mentoring. And I get that a lot from students. They're just like, I'll never be able, and they will. We've all, in my career in marketing and everything else, we've all, in my trade as well, we weren't always it wasn't always mastery.
No, and I still go out and get SEO courses and I go through the course, and it doesn't mean that I don't know most of the stuff that's in there. It's just, there's always, I like how different people think differently. Because from those different thinking ideas or something that they have discovered that maybe somebody else hasn't thought about, like they might not know all the other pieces that you know. So you could take that piece of the puzzle and incorporate into what you're doing that works. So
yeah, I've actually seen you do that on several occasions.
Yeah.
And it takes me a while it takes me several days to fully understand, if you've got a one-link wonder or something. You've showed me all kinds of crazy stuff, and it really, I don't have your level of mastery, and there's no shame in admitting that. Yeah, and that's how you learn. Is one thing I did want to share with all of you guys, not just in SEO, but just in business in general, is hang out as much as possible with somebody who's at a higher level of the game than you. And there's not only is there no shame in that, but it will up your game so much. If you want to be a millionaire, hang out with billionaires, you'll get there faster. You know what I mean? And so this has been coming up with me a lot with my coaching students the last couple of days, and just wanted to remind you that SEO is not only is SEO no different, I would say in some ways it's even more true. That's why we have these events, and my spending time one-on-one personally with Jimmy live and Sue live is really helpful from upping my game, my technology game and my SEO game. Because I'm like SEO ranking is not my focus. And that being said, but I've gotten so much better at it by just having that influence. It's just something to keep in mind, in terms of your own growth, your personal growth. Patrick's saying that's why I'm here. Yeah, and Patrick, that's, send more salmon, dude. That's all I have to say. I'm messing with you, bro. I'm messing with you. Go ahead, Jimmy.
So yeah, it's like do the testing. It's good to have your foundational knowledge. Of course, go out and read go read Google. If you never read Google's webmaster rules for what a webmaster can and can't do, go out and do that.
Let's read them out loud right now. Just kidding, man.
Take time and go research a patent like once a week. Like you don't have to do, it's not like you have to do it every single day if you don't have time to do it. But it's just like anything else you want to get good at. You just put the time in. You do some testing. You do some studying. You integrate with other people that love doing the same thing as you, and you can really build up your knowledge quite quickly. And like I said, there's tons of ranking signals that nobody's even looked or touched yet that are just waiting to be discovered. So
absolutely. And the other thing is, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but we do a lot of webinars, and there's a lot of different things, not only inside the OMG Director's Cut, but this is the equivalent of an online university. The kind of stuff that we're getting into here, it's a whole nother level of the game. There's no way that any one of our team members at Network Empire, because there's so much skill just loaded up into one company, there's no way that any one of us could possibly filter through all of the information. And what I love about the fact and the way that we teach is once you understand the principles, like when I saw Jimmy and Sue analyze the patents, which again I do too, nowhere near to that extent, but I try because I'm interested in a slightly different aspect of their patents. But once you understand the foundational principles, then it kind of hacks through all the propaganda. What Jimmy was talking about was the pundency. It was one of the words I use is pundency. It's like this propaganda that's out there in any industry to get the hook, the headlines, to get the traffic, these types of things. You really have to be able to shut out the sources that you don't trust and really focus on the sources that have earned your trust. And one thing, this is kind of related, just Jimmy, since I have you here, I don't want to interrupt what you're saying, but this is related to what I learned from you and how we've had to deal with the industry, the SEO industry. There's a list that I've got written down on the whiteboard of 62 different lies that are not true in the SEO industry that Jimmy and Sue have taught me. That, in other words, I knew that they probably weren't true, but I wouldn't be able to tell you directly exactly how the patent works in order to confirm. I couldn't say, I know, I've experimented, but this is not true. That's huge stuff. The one thing is just to remember that there's a lot of, by knowing the principles of how things actually work, by testing it yourself, then you can build upon, instead of having to read the propaganda, you can just shut out the things that don't really matter and you can smell it. It's kind of like when you go to a blog post or a pundit, or even, perhaps somebody that has been around for years and they might get something wrong, or it might be an inaccurate thing, or they're a little bit too certain about something. You can kind of smell that it's like they're making stuff up, especially when you understand the principles of how the patents work and how these fundamental mechanisms that Sue and Jimmy are showing you work. Then you can kind of turn off all the distractions. Otherwise, you're going to have thousands of RSS feeds and all these different things coming in, but nobody's really going to be speaking to the hardcore principles of why ranking works or testing it. And more, we want this webinar and this community of people in this particular webinar and the Network Empire OMG Director's Cut Skype room, what we call the genetic hybrid Skype room, to be a place that's more like a mastermind group where you can communicate questions no matter what level of question they are and communicate what's really going on. So instead of wasting your time being distracted by all the media, and it's going to get much worse, by the way, as the new social media even kicks up with what we call streaming Android phones now and all this crazy stuff that we've been talking about at Network Empire.
That brings up a good
Go ahead.
I have another story to
Yeah,
tell.
go ahead. I want to hear it. Go ahead.
So one time I was on a webinar. I'd bought a tool that did like mass syndication. It's very similar, like something like AFTTT does.
Okay.
And it does a lot of like syndication. So like
Right.
you put your post there and it puts it everywhere that you put all these other accounts. And they had this training session and I was on the call and I asked him, I was like, aren't you worried about like getting a dupe content penalty on this? I was like, this is the exact same stuff that you're putting here and it still has your links and you know what the reaction was to my question, like live on the call, was they all laughed at me.
Oh, really?
And this was when I was coming up and learning. But
Oh, wow.
I was like, I know that's not a good thing to do. Like
Right.
you could do it, but there's other stuff you have to do to make sure that you stay safe. But the way that they were teaching it, I was like, I don't think this is. It was that thing. You understand the basics, and
Right.
I was like, this is wrong.
Yep.
And but
well, what do you do, Jimmy? Like when it's a thing that we see again and again because we've been invited on to a lot of guest webinars and everybody, like marketing is easy. In fact, in my neuromarketing courses, I teach how to say how, SEO myths or SEO is dead or, the SEO that the information that SEOs wish we'd never published, this kind of thing. But what do you do when you're on webinars like that and the information is just freaking wrong, like which happens like almost always?
I usually just stay quiet. Like I'm not going to, me personally, I'm not going to call them out like right there in the webinar.
Yeah,
or,
it's embarrassing.
Like I'm not going to embarrass them or disrespect their brand in any way.
Right.
But I'll usually like give them a heads up like afterwards or something. But then it's on them to really go back and change that information that they put out to all their users at that point. But
exactly.
For me, I will never come out and like.
Well, it's
completely diss someone right on.
No, but then you'll call me on Skype after, and I'll get an earful. No, just kidding. No, but that's the thing I've learned about you, and Sue as well. Sue has massive amounts of diplomacy, unless you really piss her off, which I've seen. It's not pretty. But if you guys, there's a certain kind of diplomacy because the SEO industry is a little bit political, and the challenge that I find, and I'm just confessing my own experience, is that there are so many messages, and the reason I'm saying this is because inside of our Skype room, a lot of you this morning in the OMG Network Empire Skype room asked me some questions, and I keep answering, it depends. And I'm not trying to be a smart ass when I say that. It's just there are so many dependencies and so much politics and so many questions that are not even the right questions coming at me right now. In regards to PBNs. It's like, the question, sometimes the question might even be, if I've done absolutely...
how do you replace the engine in your car?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, or should I replace it? Like the question is just a person I've never met before. Should I replace the engine in my car? And can you imagine going to Click and Clack, those radio guys, and just calling in and going, hi, so how are you? Hi, my name is Russell. Should I replace the engine in my car? And then hanging up. Like there's so many aspects or questions like, look, I've done everything absolutely wrong. And I was taught completely wrong about 89 to 95% of most of the things I've done. Should I do this? Yes or no? Click, and you hang up. It's a very tricky thing. So our conundrum, I just want you guys to know, is our conundrum is what is the best teaching forum and the best way to communicate general information that doesn't get you in trouble, but make you aware that there's specific choices you probably made that's slightly different than almost everybody else. So that's kind of what we deal with, is we just want to make sure that you guys are aware that it's not an easy task getting into teaching that. And we really, really care about our students. Network Empire has a long history of caring about, almost to our detriment. Like we really, as you guys have probably experienced, we try on the help desk to really get, all your questions answered and the rest. But at a certain point, because we now have thousands of students around the world, we just want to make sure that we get you in the right location so that you can learn. And that being said, whenever I have a doubt and Jimmy's not available, I do go over to traffichospital and review.com and review that kind of stuff. That's some of our best info for a lot of the PBN mix-ups, unquote, that tend to happen. So that's really, really useful. That being said, Susie, Jimmy, has said, thank you. Jimmy, this is based on what you just taught her there, or what you spoke to her issue. She said, thank you very much. And it's always been a learning experience. And I don't know how much, I don't know if how much money you spent on those PBNs, but it seems like, Susie, you have got enough information from Jimmy that you should probably be able to, follow those instructions and take a look at them. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I would just say just incorporate looking additional tier back at the PBNs because,
okay.
We just can't tell. That's the thing. If you only look at the one tier, then you don't know what's behind it. But we definitely know. I mean, I've seen plenty of instances where Google's looking at definitely tier 2, but the patent says tier 3. So really, to be future-proof, go all the way out to tier 3 at that point. But tier 2, I definitely know about, and we'll see. How far they start diving into tier 3 down the road.
Gotcha. David Keys, don't use the chat window because you're now going out to everybody. Because Sue made you an organizer. So watch your P's and Q's. Okay. Susie says, cool thing, Jimmy, about LRT. You can do that. Yeah. I think she's getting immense value from this. I think before we wrap up, I just want to talk to Andy Heaps here. Andy wanted to say, this question, the great value of the Traffic Hospital course is that it gives you a foundation of understanding in how you build your sites or networks so they don't get penalized, the prevention, as well as how to recover a penalized site. Yeah, Andy, thank you so much. I know I wasn't asking for testimonials or anything, but I know you really got a lot out of that course. I've been hearing from you. It's kind of interesting that you should say that because I was just talking to Jimmy and Sue on Monday. Oh, that was yesterday. Jeez. Feel like 1,000 years, about the Traffic Hospital course and the way that I positioned that when trying to communicate with my industry. And I really want to do that differently because the feedback coming back from students are that it's really a lot more of it's equally, if not more valuable as a prevention method than it is just an improvement offer or an improvement method. I never really thought about that. When I launched it, I was just going for the pain, like, you've ruined your site or your network or your PBNs. And now I see that it's way more valuable than that. So we're going to work on talking, the copy and the videos and the introduction to it in a different way, because as Jimmy has just shown us here, the common backlink tools here on Link Research Tools, there's a ton of stuff. If you have the right tools up front, most of the things that Jimmy just discussed are also in his training inside that module, which again, as I've said many times, is one of the most valuable trainings I personally have ever had in the tech SEO industry, and I've been in the business 10 years. But the thing is that this is a prevention mechanism. So Susie's situation, it's possible, not certain, but it's possible with the skills that she's armed with or that she gets from the training or that she's learned, that those PBNs that she bought, she might not even have ever bought them. She may have been able to, with the Traffic Hospital prevention stuff, she may have actually bought maybe a higher quality domain or maybe avoided the risk. Now, that being said, there's always flukes. All of us make those types of mistakes. I know that I'm not even going to tell you how much I lost on a purchased domain once. I just wanted Jimmy to tell us. I'm not going to share my story. It's a lot more money than that.
There's no way I would spend more than the 2K. Like if I went above that, that would have to be, I would scrutinize the heck out of that thing.
Ryan said share 3 times. He was wanting to insist that I humiliate myself on my silly mistakes. Just put it this way: it was a little bit more than $2,000, and I really thought I knew what I was doing. And it was back during a time long before Jimmy got involved with our company. This is back in the day in our first certification, I think in 2000. It had to do with, we had a link, we just started a relationship with a backlink building thing that didn't turn out so well. I mean, didn't have Jimmy's skills, I didn't have the level of knowledge to deal with it. And that was back in the day when I really wasn't asking Sue anything. I was just doing stuff. And, I was asking forgiveness rather than permission. Let's just put it this way. I had to ask for a lot of forgiveness. I'm not even sure if I ever did. I think I might have even spent my own money. I can't remember. But it was more money than what Jimmy paid. But I didn't have the kind of education that you guys had. I wish that I had this information back in the day. Back in the day. So, this is just all part of the learning, and I really hope you guys are getting a lot of value out of the training that we provide. I know if you get anywhere near as much value as I get out of my team, then you will be making 6, hopefully 7, 8 figures. We aim high, not just out of fluff or anchoring. We aim high because it really is possible to go to a whole nother level when you're hanging out with people who are working at a different level of the game. And that's what we really want for each and every one of you. Stay focused. Focus on your business. And I have to say this because this is my little area of Network Empire, that this is the drum that I beat. I say it over and over and over again consistently. Get your buy buttons up there. If you're just hanging out, listening to Jimmy and Sue and our team theoretically, and you don't have anything for sale, you don't have a product, you don't have services, look at your business model. Make sure that you have a way to make that money drop right into your bank account straight away. Okay, don't just sit on the sidelines and think that ranking is going to make you millions upon millions of dollars. If you don't have a buy button, none of it matters. This is what we teach in certification level 1, swallowyourmarketwhole.com, is we want to make sure that we're not going to drag you across the finish line, but you can't make any money if you got nothing to sell. And you're right, if you got a buy button on there, unless you're ranking for clients. And if you're ranking for clients, make sure you get paid up front and make sure you can turn it off if they try to screw you. Okay, we care about you guys, and we want you to make sure that you extract the value, offer the value, and you extract the value that you're worth, which with this training, folks, you are worth a ton of money, the value that you provide. Even if you have a fraction of the information that is in Jimmy and Sue's head and a fraction of the information of marketing that's in my head, you can be literally worth millions of dollars, and you can build a multi-million-dollar company like we have. And we want that for you. Okay, we really do. We're not just giving that lip service. We want you to be successful. All right. So with that, I think it's time to wrap up. And Jimmy, Sue, do you have any closing comments, inspirations, arguments, and/or just maybe really bad jokes like Mike Clay has?
Nobody could match the bad jokes that Mike Clay has.
Again, I want to say that the Sell Reports First course is coming along very, very well for those of you who are also part of the Network Empire Pro Bundle. We will see you, these ongoing events next week. It's Tuesday. OMG Director's Cut, Project Breakthrough. It will be an evening time instead of this 1 o'clock time. I look very much forward to seeing you guys again at that time. David Keys, if you've altered or changed that website, let me just light a fire under you. Bring it back so we can see what you've done. We're going to hold you accountable to that because I know Jimmy's seen the site now. So hopefully bring that back. All right, good. Thank you so much, Jimmy and Sue, for your time. I'm certainly glad I don't have to pay the $2,000 an hour required for that, and look very much forward to seeing each and every one of you next week. Thank you. It's Network Empire team, Project Breakthrough. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.